Wonder Woman is directed by Patty Jenkins, and it's the newest installment in the DC universe. I actually had high hopes for this film because Patty Jenkins directed a movie called Monster, and that film was impressive. And also the fact that Wonder Woman was really the only promising thing to come out of Batman vs. Superman. So I was really hoping that they could capitalize on her character and make something decent. And they did. It's a pretty great film. But to be quite frank, I was not a huge fan of the first 20 minutes or so of the movie. The entire first act of this film, where they're trying to set up Wonder Woman's character, was very hit and miss. Some things were enrichful and visually interesting, and it worked very well, and then some things just kind of fell. It's just that there were certain sequences that were over-dramatized and overly expositional. Like in the first 15 minutes of this movie, there's this thing that happens to where somebody dies, and they decided to make it into this emotional crying scene. I just feel that they emphasized on that much longer than they really should have. Because it's like the movie really expected the audience to care about this character that we've only been introduced for like 15 minutes. The film hasn't given the audience enough time to really attach themselves to the character, so it's just gonna fall flat. And also some of the comedy that was sprinkled out to the beginning didn't really hit the way I wanted it to. But, on the other hand, the mythical world was very well realized, Wonder Woman's character was established substantially, and there was a handful of visually stunning scenes, so again, like I said, it was a very hit and miss in the first 20 minutes of the movie. But after those first 20 minutes, this movie goes from to holy shit, that's awesome. Because after that point, I really don't have any major complaints for the remainder of the film, besides maybe a few nitpicks. I really liked what they did with Wonder Woman's character because they didn't establish her as this perfect goddess who's just incapable of being manipulated or destroyed. She has never experienced anything outside of her fantasy world, so when she first begins to experience the human world, she's very naive and she has to learn from her mistakes if she wants to triumph and become better. Maybe they could have cut back a little bit on trying to convey how naive she is because they drew that out for a fairly long time, but it didn't really bother me that much because realistically that's something that her character would do. Chris Pine's character in this movie was phenomenal. He's a very non-intimidating, enjoyable character throughout this film. And he is really proving that he has some serious talent, especially after seeing his performance in Hell or High Water. Great movie, by the way, check it out. And the romantic dynamic between his character and Wonder Woman felt natural. It was predictable, but it was natural. And the soldier characters that support Chris Pine and Wonder Woman as they go into World War I were also surprisingly well established. You actually care about all the people that you're supposed to care about in this movie. I think somebody needs to take some notes. And the action in this film is incredibly satisfying, and it was filmed remarkably well. I guess if I had to nitpick from the action, it would be that there was a lot of use of slow motion, but most of it is warranted because a lot of the action is detail oriented and you have to see like precisely exactly what is happening. And it's also used to convey the kind of power and precision that Wonder Woman has. The last action sequence of this movie gets a little CGI heavy, and I could see how this could bother some people. It didn't really bother me that much, but it was inferior to the previous action that we've already seen in the movie. The first real action sequence of Wonder Woman in World War I was super badass. It was a grippingly enjoyable, well-filmed action sequence. It created a truly empowering moment, and I don't just mean female empowerment, I mean human empowerment. And most people that have seen it already can probably understand what I'm getting at. The villain, or I guess I should say villains, were actually handled fairly well in my opinion, and I thought they actually had some character to them. Some weren't as well established as others, but for the most part, they were interesting to watch. And by the way, this isn't a one-sided feminist propaganda piece like some of the trailers might be making it out to be. This film in no way, shape, or form even really comes close to saying something like, oh, all men are disgusting pigs and women should reign supreme. This is actually a very fair, balanced, and well-rounded film when it comes to that subject. And there's also important and thought-provoking themes throughout this film about humanity and military hypocrisy and war that really impressed me and I found incredibly compelling. And my final nitpick of this movie is at the very last part of the film, it does what every single Hollywood blockbuster does, and that's explain the theme of the film through expositional narration. The film just visually conveyed all these things perfectly, and for some reason the film just felt the need to verbally explain this to the audience as if human beings are just so stupid we can't pick up on it. But, I don't know, maybe the movie was right for doing that. Maybe they're right. Maybe human beings really do need that force fed to them. But for me personally, it just insulted my intelligence, and it would have been great without it. But overall, this was a really great film that I enjoyed. It has characters in it that I actually cared about. The introductory setup to this movie could have been executed better. and some of the expositional dialogue and narration kind of got on my nerves, but overall I found this movie very enjoyable, and it's so refreshing to finally see a DC movie that's actually good. So I'm going to give Wonder Woman a B+. And by the way, Gal Gadot really knocked the Wonder Woman character out of the park. She really nailed this character, and I can already see that she's going to become iconic. And I can also see teenage boys become unhealthily obsessed over her. Thank you so much for clicking on this video and checking out what I had to say about Wonder Woman. Have you already seen Wonder Woman? If you have, comment below and let me know your thoughts on it. And if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to the Misfit Pawn channel so you can be updated on more film-related content.